long, yeah, because I think John is going to be at least an hour. And the wild people, Delaware River people, are going to be first.
Next time you call
And
out,
that's five. And apparently they're very slow. I don't know. I've never experienced them.
God.
And then we have the very interesting quarterly finance report. That one really might put me to sleep.
Financial reports. You say they're interesting.
Yeah. I don't have any interest in the finance report. Unless the money's going into my account, I don't want to hear about it. Why did they make this so tight? Why can we put this thing there?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, you did, right? But it was in the meeting here. Hey, Frank, you know, I told you,
There's Hopkins here.
Oh yeah, right. No, once you click the button, it registers.
okay.
Yeah, once you
Okay.
click it.
Mayor wants to know about
There's a run place they do.
Okay.
I need to rehearse.
Hi, Professor.
Oh,
Hey,
another one.
Mayor, how you doing? Welcome to this side of the river.
Went to the wrong building.
You went up to the house?
That was the
Just
meeting.
walking around. There's a meeting. I'll just show up.
Well, at least you can complain about the traffic.
It's done.
I got you.
You can't get out of the sun.
Having Randy.
Real quick.
How you been, Randy?
Doing all right.
Good?
Back last night had some dinner.
Oh, I wasn't there last night. My wife? No, she wasn't there last night. She had a zoning hearing board meeting last night.
One John's there last night.
Oh, you want trivia? You like trivia? I don't.
Okay.
Little neck of break, aren't they?
Oh, they were out of time.
That's tomorrow night. It's tomorrow night.
Well, then we're gonna have to remind them of that. The mayor. Just him and Frank that may both make comments.
Well, someone had a
I'm,
We have Professor Kincaid here.
comments that there's. I have a draft resolution. Eventually they're gonna block. Here's the one that.
And we have former Councilman David O'Connell. Very, very glad to see you today, David.
I'm just telling you what he said.
Go forward. I'll send it up to you and your.
Thank you.
Kelly left.
Kelly,
Yep.
by word. So
She's been out for a while. Sorry.
I'll just send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I'm
that
gonna.
way you can,
Okay.
you don't have to pass it.
No, it's okay.
It's just a draft.
Oh yeah, I saw him. I saw him. He has good days and bad days. Yeah, he
Take them more. You
he
know,
will-
take them more.
no.
Exactly.
He told me that. I saw him downtown with the family. When was that?
Yes. She can.
How'd you, I read about you guys.
Oh yeah,
Your water.
that's where CVS is, right across from my house. When I was growing up.
If you're working for a living,
Yeah, that would
that
be
must have been a disaster.
Yeah, we've been able to handle more stuff in house, which is good. We have a really good DPW supervisor.
Barney's has to go in there.
And he's
I put Barney's.
for us, and he's kind of really streamlined that department.
Well, I'm one of them.
You know, he saves every time we call him, like, contract is $30. He's doing it for a fraction of the cost. You know, he knows the
course for them too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is it really nice and warm outside?
Ed, he was the city controller too. Yeah,
He lived up by you, right?
he lived right down the street. He was on my paper route.
He was my shop teacher. He was my shop teacher at Eastern Junior.
I call this committee meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. So welcome everybody here for, I know you all have presentations, so we're going to get right to it. The first presentation is going to be the business recruitment update and survey results. What?
The first one is the Delaware River.
Oh, wildlife and scenic designation?
It got changed.
Okay, I have it on my agenda differently. Welcome to Easton, the middle of the DNL, across from the beautiful town of Phillipsburg, New Jersey.
Absolutely. Each one of you has a great
That's true.
view. So,
Hello.
Hi, this is Sarah from the National Park Service calling in.
Thank you.
So,
Just talk into the
Oh,
microphone
yeah.
or Sarah won't hear us.
Your mic is on.
is it on? Yeah. So my name is Robert McEwen, and I represent the Lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River Expansion Committee. On the phone is Sarah Bursky, who represents the National Park Service, and I'm with Allison Summer Sayers, who works as part of the Greenway Partnership, and that's part of the Lower Delaware administrative activities. I'm a volunteer. Sarah obviously works for the National Parks, so she's paid, and Allison is paid partially. She works 80 hours a week and probably gets paid for 10. I don't know. So,
Understand that.
Mr. Hopkins has asked us to be extremely brief. What we're doing is the Wild and Scenic Act was passed in 1968. In Pennsylvania and New Jersey, in the year 2000, the act was passed for the lower Delaware River. There's a middle Delaware River which starts at the water gap and goes up, and the lower Delaware starts at the water gap and goes down to basically Washington Crossing Bridge. That designation, which goes through the United States Congress, so it's not easy to do, is based on residential support. That's one of the reasons we're here, looking for the residential support of the city of Easton. And we're also looking to expand the number of creeks that are designated. In the year 2000, 3 creeks were included in the lower Delaware. They're the Panacussing, the Tohican, and the Tinicum Creeks, which are farther down on the Pennsylvania side. And they get to enjoy some of the benefits of this. I'd like to be as brief as possible. I'm not assuming you know everything about the lower Delaware, but basically I
The
could...
lower Delaware, we had a meeting in this room about 2 years ago, maybe
Okay.
longer.
In 2016, we were probably back here.
Probably, okay, that
Okay.
long ago. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay,
Well,
time goes by.
Yes.
Goes-
So I'm not quite exactly sure on the dates, but and really the benefits of the Wild and Scenic Act are what I'd like to talk about, because we'd like to limit this to 15 minutes and obviously entertain your questions. So if I talk more, I'll answer questions, but I'd rather take them. But the main benefits of this program are it maintain and improve water quality up and down the basin, preserve and protect the river's outstanding natural resources, preserve and protect the cultural resources of the community landscapes, and encourage recreational use in sustainable conditions. I might mention today there was an article in the New York Times that talked about the River Sojourn, which is sponsored by the Wild and Scenic, and it's a great program. It starts upriver, various places every summer, comes downriver. Last year it stopped in Phillipsburg, and I guess we...
Oh, I failed to mention for the members of the city council who don't know, the Honorable Randy Piazza, Mayor of the town of Phillipsburg, New Jersey.
Honorable, thank you.
Honorable.
Sorry, I should have introduced him as well. I'll get back to the benefits, but one of the criteria of joining this is both sides of a river have to join. And that's easy if you're in one state and one county, but in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, many counties, many municipalities. So Phillipsburg and Easton did not join in the year 2000. More or less, I'm not exactly sure of the reasons, but they were considered fairly industrial areas. It's amazing to be here. I've visited Easton a number of times, and Phillipsburg, and the way the towns have improved over the last 25, 30 years is congratulations is all I have to say. And I hope you can keep finding the money to keep it going.
Well, the shad aren't running as much as they used to, but they are out there today fishing for shad in Shad Row. But
Well, good. Well, I live in Silbury Township in New Hope.
okay.
And I can tell you there's a lot of fishermen out there trying to get them before they get here. That's all I can say. And they are. Okay.
I don't
they
blame
are. Especially on a weather like a day like today.
We used
So-
to have a contest between the mayor of Easton and the mayor of Phillipsburg, and I had to go all the way up to New York because I was so late in the season. They were up in New York. I said to my buddy, I said, "Where are you taking me?" He says, "Well, the fish are. You want to go where the shad are? The shad are up in New York already."
Right. Well,
At least he knew.
you waited too long.
I waited very long.
Anyway, we encourage recreational use in sustainable conditions and encourage sustainable development. And we work to maintain open space. These are not, you don't have farm communities here in Phillipsburg, but you're surrounded by farm communities. And we give a considerable amount of our very small budget to Heritage Foundation on the Pennsylvania side and New Jersey, Hunterton Land Trust on the New Jersey side, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, to conserve lands. And we've been doing that since 2000. We know that we've probably put more than $3 million into the local economy since 2000. Doesn't sound like a lot, but bit by bit it supports quite a few nonprofits, quite a few land conservancy activities, and that's the whole point, getting money back to small organizations through something we call mini grants, which 8 or 10 are given every year. They're up to $5,000. They fund riparian buffers, for instance. So if you wanted to do something along the Bushkill, we would be, you can apply through a grant, which is an enormous 2-page document, and the turnaround is 6 weeks. In the end of January, you find out after you've submitted it, and you get the money, and you got to spend it by October. So we plant a lot of trees that way and a lot of other activities. So what I'm asking for today is you to consider a resolution to add Easton to this endeavor, and also add your part of the Bushkill Creek. The Bushkill goes quite far up, so we would look for other community associations, Nurture Nature, people like this, to support this. So I've run through the benefits. The negatives are only that if you decide to build a hydroelectric dam in the middle of the river or on one of your creeks, we would not encourage that. Wild and Scenic was founded in the 1960s, as I said, and out west, the big deal was let's make hydroelectric dams, and this was a pushback to that through Congress.
But this is just the Delaware and the Bushkill, not the Lehigh? Or
Correct.
Does it
The
close?
Lehigh would be a separate river if they so desired.
We know that the Lehigh is being proposed for a hydroelectric dam at the chain dam up
Really?
in Humor Park.
Yeah. Well, that's not something that,
You wouldn't encourage it. We didn't encourage it either. They were here for the last 3 years trying to get the city. We wouldn't do it.
right. Well, thank you. Because dams are coming down.
But that dam and that program is now, they're using the state,
Oh,
not local.
okay.
They're going after the state to give them permission to put it on that dam.
There's another river on the on the New Jersey side, the Musconetcong.
Musconetcong, yeah.
And they have taken down 3 dams in the last year, and they're getting nonprofits to support that. They're not, and the Bushkill.
The Bushkill's taking down
Yeah,
all.
Bushkill has taken 4 or 5, so that's something we
The
encourage.
3 in East are down.
Yeah, so you'll be able to fish those creeks and not go as far as Upper Pennsylvania. And
And one of them still up?
well, it's a work in progress. There's no magic wand. So anyway, I have a short resolution which I would share with your city clerk. Excuse me. But I'm looking for questions because we've been asked to be as brief as possible. I'm happy to talk
Well,
for
we
another
believe the
hour.
waterway, I believe the waterways are a natural resource that's really very, very prominent between Easton and Phillipsburg, or Phillipsburg and Easton. And I think we have some plans that city council will see in the second meeting in May, right, Dave? That we want to beautify the waterways even
Fantastic.
more, so.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, we would support that as much as possible. Help.
Great.
Yeah.
Anyone on city council would like to say anything?
No? Okay, so hopefully you'll put the resolution on.
Any questions?
Any questions, please?
I think the resolution will go on the the fourth Wednesday of May. Also, the same time we present the Lehigh, Delaware waterfront survey
Okay,
study that's been. We've hired a consultant to come in and give us some ideas, and I think from what Dave showed me today, it's very aggressive, but yet it's also very passive in the type of activities along the river, and I'm looking forward to it. And
Good.
we're also looking at a high line for the old trestle, which will work with
oh, really? That'd be exciting.
Randy, Mayor Piazza on.
Wonderful, that's very exciting.
It'll be the only high line that connects two states and two cities and goes over a river. So
It would be
has its
amazing.
challenges.
Really, well,
The
I know.
challenge is called Norfolk Southern.
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah, that's a big challenge. We don't have that in New Hope, Lambertville.
You're lucky.
But it creates a ton of tourist activity. I can tell you, walking across the river, it doesn't stop.
No.
And it's really good for both sides of the river where I live. So, well, thank you very much. And maybe we'll be back in May if you have more questions then, or how it works. I'll
It'll
work.
be the fourth Wednesday in May.
Okay. I'll keep in touch with the clerk and Mr. Hopkins. Anything else? No? Randy?
I just, these guys came before Phillipsburg to present the same type of resolution. Easton and Phillipsburg are both founded on transportation industry on the river, as well as recreation. We still have that historical recreation, whether it's the Shad tournament, water sports, the Sojourn. Everybody who's grown up in this area has
We have
enjoyed
dueling
the river.
music next week.
Yeah, there'll be music on the river next week. And we didn't really see a downside whether you keep that industrial aspect or commercial aspect or more residential. The river still plays an important part in our past and our future. So
Absolutely.
it's something that we'd like to, throw our hat in on as well.
Go ahead.
It might be interesting if you included information in the resolution as to what are currently wild and scenic, what rivers currently have the designation of wild and scenic, because I think that would be impressive.
Okay, it is impressive. It's only, unfortunately, although it's many miles, it's 1/2 of 1% of the rivers in the
That's
United
right.
States.
Mhm.
It's sounds tiny, but these projects take 5 to 6 years to prepare the information to even get to the Congress to get it on an addendum. So I'd rather sort of try to send that. If I put it in the resolution, it would go on for pages and pages and pages. I'm happy to do it. Or Allison may be happy to do it, I'm not sure, with me. I know that the Paulinskill, the people up there in the Highlands Coalition are looking to do the Paulinskill River instead of including it in the lower Delaware, which is great. And the Great Egg started in 1962, and I could go on and on. And it's all over the United States. So thank you, Dr. Ruckles. Okay.
Good to see you, Randy.
Hey, good to see everybody.
Take care.
And my apologies for not introducing Mayor Piazza
Oh,
That's fine.
at the beginning.
I think everybody knows him.
Yeah,
They got
we
his
all get
number?
along.
You have his number?
I have his number.
All right.
We'll see him in November.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
You guys,
you.
thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Okay, Mr. Kingsley, you're up next.
Good evening,
I
all.
see you have Professor Kincaid and some of the students here.
You do. So we have quite a few partners in this process, and it's been a while since we've updated City Council on the process we're making as it relates to the business recruitment strategy. So we're going to do that briefly, and then I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Groves, Dr. Kincaid, and the team they've assembled to help us analyze the data related to the our Easton survey. Briefly, I do want to identify all of our partners. So the business recruitment strategy is an outgrowth of the Economic Vitality Committee of Main Street, and actually it is identical. Our business recruitment committee is the Economic Vitality Committee of Main Street. We've got a number of them here. So you have, I know Julie's here. Yeah, David, Sandy, Peter, Chelsea is also here. Am I missing anybody? Anybody I didn't get? Didn't think so. Okay. And then we have three partners from Lafayette College that are assembled here, and I can't give enough praise to the Minor Center for the work that they have done on this. I specifically want to thank Nicole for all of her hard work. I think most people know that Nicole was the person who kind of moderated, and at times that's very difficult, and coordinated our committee to the results that we've achieved. And so we thank her very much for her time. I also want to thank the Landis Center. Chelsea's been a really important component of our committee in kind of evaluating the business recruitment strategy's direction. And I also obviously want to thank Dr. Groves and his team, who we're going to put on here momentarily. I gave you guys a handout kind of giving you a bit of background on the business recruitment strategy, most of which you've heard before, so I'm not going to go through that again. What I will go through is kind of the updates of where we stand to date. So that's on page 4 of the presentation that I provided. When you're looking at the steps, we had an 8-step process that we're going through. We've now completed approximately 4 of those steps, and we're in process on 2 others. So we have 2 left to go. We've completed our formation of the business recruitment team, which I already went over. We've also developed the data points and the data information that we want to collect to support our business recruitment strategy. The only thing that we have not yet done is cultivated all of our internal data sources, which we will be working on with an intern that we're going to be bringing in for summer work with the department. We have completed conducting surveys for our businesses, our residents, and our visitors. We will be doing also one with Future with Government Lab to get students' attitudes and preferences related to city business development. And then we've developed an inventory of available properties in the downtown. We'll be doing that for the other districts as well. We'll actually be updating that this summer. The steps yet to be completed are step 7 and 8, which are define roles and responsibilities in the recruitment process, which we will be doing in the context of putting together the draft document. And then we are also obviously have implementation components related to a marketing strategy, which will be an outgrowth of work we're doing with the Greater Eastern Development Partnership on their destination marketing, as well as work we're doing in developing the results of the surveys that I spoke of. So that's currently where we stand. A little bit of background on how we got to the point of the survey and to working with the GovLab on this particular project. So I think most of you are aware that we actually undertook a survey in November of 2024 and completed it in January of 2025. This was the result of the business recruitment committee's work that basically happened in the 4th quarter of 2024. We received 1,700 responses on that survey. Again, that survey was focused on preferences of visitors to the downtown, why they come, what they want to see here in terms of new business development in the city. Because of the relationship that we developed with the Minor Center and working specifically with Nicole on this, she introduced us to GovLab and to Dr. Groves. Dr. Groves assembled a team, a working group of students to work on this particular project, which we are about to hear what they've tabulated in terms of results. And this information is going to be used to inform the remainder of the work that we're going to be doing on the business recruitment strategy and the written document that will come from it. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Groves to introduce his team and to take you through their results.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Groves.
Thank you so much. John, to get to is it right up? Oh, thank you.
Go ahead and introduce the team.
Well, thank you very much for having us. As I said, this is kind of a collaboration from a number of different folks, including GovLab, and some really amazing students are here to present to you. But it's also been a lot of work coming together, including work from the Minor Center, Nicole, and Chelsea at the Landis Center. So I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves first. Then I'll talk through what the GovLab was up to and mostly turn it over to students to share the results of this survey. Before I start, I hope everyone has documentation here, and if anyone in the audience needs that, just raise your hand and I'll come around and pass it out. And now let me turn it over to Nicole, if you'd like to introduce the Minor Center a little bit, and then Chelsea.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here again. We were here last year, so for those of you who do not know about the Minor Center, I'll introduce the center along with myself and explain our mission. So I'm Nicole Beckett. I'm the Associate Director for Public Service at the Minor Center, and we're there for the study of state and local government. Professor Kincaid is in the audience. He is the one and only director of the center, and we have two missions. We also have Jen Smethers, I'll mention. She's our newest addition at the center. She is the Associate Director for Municipal Services. So we're building our own capacity and growing internally ourselves to be able to provide and meet the needs of local governments all over.
Done a great job so far.
Thank you. We have two missions. The first mission is to educate students on the importance of state and local government and encourage their participation. So by doing that, we create internships in local government, and the city has been supportive of that for years. So that's been helpful. We also have the internships. We also do different programs on campus, and really just we're there as a resource to introduce them to local government. And our second mission is to help local government be more effective and efficient, in which we provide program services and trainings to local government. So we spend a lot of time on the road traveling, but we like to be here in Easton. So with the addition of Jen, we hope to be able to expand our services even further. But I've worked with Lewis, worked with John, council, if you ever need anything, we're here as a resource. By career, I worked in local government for 22 years. I was a borough manager, and Jen has a similar background. So we have the capacity in-house to be able to understand and speak the language. That's the introduction, really. Beyond, I've been working with the Economic Vitality Committee for about the last 2 years, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Economic development, Main Street initiatives, they're a passion of mine, so it's been a nice blend. And we really just appreciate you having us here and welcoming what we do on campus.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for all your work. My favorite day of the year is when I get invited by Professor Kincaid to go up and speak to one of his classes. It's always interesting.
I usually join you for that, right?
Yes, you do.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I think most of you already know me. I'm Chelsea Maurice. I'm the Executive Director for Community Engagement at Lafayette College. I'm also the Director of the Landis Center for Community Engagement. Our mission, I'm going to slow down, I'm sorry. Our mission in the Landis Center is to graduate active citizens. We do this by providing opportunities in social advocacy, civic leadership, and engaged scholarship. And this is kind of one of those projects. It's not something we oversaw, but it's something that we have a part in. And I think when most people think of the Landis Center and our students at Lafayette, they think of the work we do in the school district with tutoring and mentoring, or the work we're doing with community organizations throughout the year, some of our voter registration things. But we also have all of these academic partnerships with faculty and students that are geared onto these long-standing projects. So I just want to draw some attention to some of the projects we've done, not because I want accolades for them, but just in case it sparks some ideas for things that the council or other people here might want to investigate or explore in the future. So one of our major projects over the last couple of years, was the Easton Action Climate Plan, Easton Climate Action Plan, I'm sorry. And that was a partnership with Nurture Nature Center in the city. It was a 3-year project that initially started with just faculty and one faculty member and 3 students, which grew to include all of these other classes and other areas. So we worked with Rachel, who is here. We worked with Rachel, who is here on the Youth Summit, and we created the dashboard for our students helped create the dashboard for the Climate Action Plan, and it became a 3-year project that we just recently concluded. And so this particular set of fellows, our faculty fellow, is going to be starting a new project probably around the trail systems in the fall. We've also worked with Tech Clinic. So Tech Clinic has been a project of Lafayette for 37 years, which means we've run 37 tech clinics. It's interdisciplinary. It includes students from different disciplines working on one project. I just included the most 2 recent ones. They worked with St. Luke's last year, and right now they're working with the Neighborhood Center over in Southside, and they're trying to help Allison determine their client base so they think she can better meet their needs. And then this is just very general and an overview, but by no means an exhaustive list of the things that we do. We've done internships, student interns at Buy Fresh and Buy Local. Had for 2 years, a marketing and outreach assistant. We've worked with the Westwood Market with our food and farm fellows. We've worked with Wilson Area Links Family Center as a grant assistant, which doesn't mean that they necessarily help them write grants, but what they did do is they were able to translate the data that they had into a narrative that they could use in grant application. So it was kind of a cool project. Obviously, we've done a lot of engineering. We are an engineering school. I think everybody in this room is probably involved in some sort of senior design project at some point. Right now, another senior capstone class is looking at the trail project that's connecting College Hill to Metzger. We've done a gazillion, roughly, website usability studies for community organizations. So if that's something, you would like somebody to look at your website and say, yeah, this could function better. We have a whole class that does that every spring. And then one of our most recent courses is the Community Engaged Writing course, which has done a lot of work. They did a mock-up last year of a brochure for Easton that, had different types of, that appeal to different groups within one brochure. So like for the foodie, you could do this throughout the day. We actually started talking about that at Economic Vitality Committee, and then we kind of dropped it, but we'll bring it back up. And that's it. I'm going to hand it over back to
Have you
Professor
ever
Burrows.
added up the hours that your students donate to the community?
We haven't done that in a very long time.
But it was around 35 to 40,000 hours.
It is. It's a lot of hours. It's hard for us to capture everything because it's hard to capture academic hours. It's easy to capture hours when they're just going, when they're working in, community organizations over weeks or they're volunteering. Those are easy hours to capture. It's much harder to capture the types of academic hours like these students we're doing because we don't ask them to count them, right? So it's a hard thing to quantify in that way.
Well, I just want to say thank you.
Thank
because
you.
the Landis Center has always been there for us. I was at the Literacy Day a couple weeks ago, and what you do for Paxos and Cheston and March is very, very important to us. We have 3 elementary schools in the city, and they're all city students that go there, and I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you. We especially appreciate that you always welcome our students downtown every August when they arrive here.
Well, that's very important.
You took all 750 of them last year, so.
That's very important too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Once again, my name is Dylan Groves. I'm actually just in my second year at Lafayette in the Government and Law Department, and I want to say a little bit about the third element of this collaboration, which is the Lafayette Government Lab. I can actually take none of the credit for the Government Lab. All of that goes to Andrew Clark, who unfortunately has a family illness, but because he's not here, I can embarrass him a little bit and say the Government Lab, to my mind, is just one of the coolest things that Lafayette College does. It's one of the reasons I wanted to come to Lafayette in the first place. It was started in 2020 as an opportunity to give students under COVID the chance to participate in meaningful academic research. The idea being that students, if you give them the skills, can both guide their own, design, and implement their own rigorous academic studies on everything from American political institutions to public policy questions. And they have really exceeded our expectations. They've done everything from invent new apps to try to mobilize civic engagement, to reach out to more than 80,000 elected officials around the country to inform evidence-based policy, towards this most recent year, mobilizing every single student on Lafayette's campus in one way or another as part of a voter outreach campaign. So it's a really incredible work being done. We have about 35 students in GovLab now. And that means when John Kingsley and Nicole came to my office and started talking about this survey being done, the light bulbs started going off. Here was an amazing opportunity for students combined with a really cool opportunity to give back to the community. So my hope is that this is the start of kind of a long tradition of students getting involved, not just in academic studies, but kind of meaningful studies to give back to Easton and beyond. So thank you so much for having us. I just want to say first thanks to John, to both John Kingsley and John Kincaid, to Nicole and to Chelsea. I want to say thank you to all of you for giving students the opportunity. But maybe most, I want to say thank you. These students may or may not show, they have done an incredible amount of work to put this together, both on the data side, survey processing side, and now putting together this presentation. So thank you to all of them for the work they did.
Thank you, Doctor.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Alexa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Alexa. I'm just going to give a little bit of background and also just explain a little bit more of the context. So as Mr. Kingsley said, you want me to? Okay. So, sorry. Here's the background. So, as Mr. Kingsley sort of went over a little bit before, this survey was conducted between November and December 2024 to January 2025, and we collected about 1,700 responses, and 100% of those responses live within 20 minutes of Easton. And the survey also had a 90% completion rate, which is awesome because it shows that the Easton citizens really care about their community, and it's a really important thing for them. And this survey was distributed through QR codes, social media, and word of mouth. This is the income distribution of respondents. So we can see here that the distribution is fairly distributed for the most part, with the most making, around $100,000 to $150,000, and 44.8% of those respondents make less than that a year. And then going against the census data, the median household income for Easton was approximately $64,000. So with that being said, this survey may not represent entirely the majority of Easton population in terms of income, but it does take into account the responses from every income bracket, which is just as important when we're considering the needs of Easton citizens. And yeah. And similarly, the age distribution of respondents. So most respondents are over the age of 25, and the largest group being 35 to 44. And similarly, we can see here that it's fairly distributed from the 25, 35, 45, and 55, 65 and older, but the least we have is the 18 to 24-year-old category, which is interesting because the two biggest brackets of age in Easton, according to census data, are 15 to 19 and 20 to 24, which is super important for our survey responses and how we assess this data properly. So we decided that binning the results, meaning that we are taking into account the responses from every age distribution, but especially keeping in mind the responses from the 18 to 24-year-old bracket were going to be more important. And it doesn't mean the survey is, null or in any way. It just means that we have to maybe look at subgroups a little differently. So what is the story of Easton today? Truly, we think it's a great place for dining. Anecdotally, we also agree. If you look at many travel websites, and I think many Eastoners agree, they love the ambiance, there's lots of history, there's a great indoor market with yummy food, and I personally agree with that. It has some nice bars and restaurants in the area, and it has more great downtown and great restaurants. However, this survey data shows that there are many other people who are coming to Easton for other reasons than dining. We have shopping, work or business, entertainment, recreation, residents, other reasons. And we can see that wealthier residents may be coming to Easton just for dining. However, there are residents who have lesser incomes, whether that's 75 to 150,000 or under 75,000, have different reasons, and whether that's shopping, work or business, or entertainment and recreation, all of those things are super important to consider when we're thinking about how people visit Easton and for what reasons. That being said, how often do people go to downtown Easton? 23% said that they visit daily. 28% said that they visit several times a week. 25% once a week. 22% once a month. And younger residents are actually much more frequent visitors than older residents, with mostly under 35 visiting around 60% of the time every week. And then we have that percentage decreasing over the increasing age. And I think this gives us a good picture of where we're at now, because we can see that there are a lot of young people who are really inspired by the current community, and I think that's super important when we're considering what we can bring that, can really benefit everybody, but can especially highlight the people who really enjoy the city most. So I'm gonna turn it over to Peter to discuss what people are asking for.
Where are you from?
Me? I'm from Morristown, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. I like to ask the college students where they're from. Okay, Peter.
So thank you so much, Alexa. And as she established before, and really determining what large groups make up downtown Easton, we thought it was a really important question to ask, but where do Easton's residents want to go? And what kind of new stores would draw them to downtown? And with these fundamental findings that our data insights were able to determine, we were looking at how younger demographics were really responding to high amounts of demand for entertainment opportunities, while among older and wealthier demographics, it was apparent that retail shopping was presenting itself as a really sought after opportunity. So among downtown residents, especially considering these different demographics, groceries and public infrastructure really presented themselves as demanded opportunities, and we'll go into specifics about these additions on this next slide. Here, when discussing these additions that would really serve to entice residents to visit downtown, according to the responses that we collected, 3 categories really stood out specifically. These categories included entertainment venues, retail shopping, as well as public spaces and infrastructure. And then scattered below these respondents that were collected, there are other categories as well, including dining and restaurants and service businesses that present themselves as demanded as well, but not as highly compared to all of these other categories. And it is worth mentioning that all of these different additions are not demanded equally among all Easton residents that responded to this survey, and which is why I would like to spend the time to really discuss some of these nuances and differences about these additions, specifically among the groups that demand these additions with this slide here. When discussing demand specifically for the entertainment category that was aforementioned in that previous slide, it is apparent that among younger demographics that responded to the survey, there proved to be a substantial demand for looking for entertainment venues, seeking those opportunities, especially compared to older demographics that was compared to in regards to the survey data. And this also presented itself as highly desired when breaking down this data by income as well, with residents that reported incomes of $75,000 to $150,000, incomes also responding to slightly higher demands for entertainment options compared to those with lower incomes, but this difference was only slight. It is intriguing to also note that this is reflected in the qualitative responses as well for the data, especially among younger demographics. In terms of these responses, it's worth pointing out that such responses included younger demographics looking for venues such as bowling alleys or music venues or late nightlife that are contributing to their desires. But then among these older demographics, they're looking for different types of venues consisting of more family-friendly centric venues or child-friendly, mainly taking the forms of examples like mini golf or cornhole. And it is really just interesting to note when looking at this that it is presenting itself as a very intriguing opportunity when looking at this data for the younger demographics, because it would be very insightful to investigate the needs of these younger demographics that this data is strongly indicating the preference for these entertainment opportunities, presenting a great opportunity for investigating insights from Lafayette College students, specifically from the school, and to gain more insights about these younger residents' responses. So I will turn it over to Bodhi to expand on that.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Bodhi Brewer. I'm a freshman from Lafayette. And,
Where are you from?
I'm Reading, Pennsylvania. Reading.
Oh, Reading.
So, distant but neighboring town.
Far enough away as your parents can't come up
Exactly.
every night.
I planned it that way. It was all planned.
You know they got this on tape, right?
Yeah. Well, so Peter previously mentioned about the fact that looking really at the demand for entertainment, because that's a key factor of the demand in this survey. But we're now, and in that survey, in that factor of entertainment, we saw that younger people and people that are less wealthy were more interested in entertainment. But now we're going to take a step further and look at the demand for retail. And the demand for retail actually paints a different picture, where people that are older and are more wealthy actually want more retail and shopping options in the city of Easton. So let's first start with the graph we see, the first graph we see here by age group. So we can see that the 55 and older demographic prefers retail and shopping options more than the under 55 demographics combined. And to add to that, there's a really quite easy way to think about this, and it's the fact that this is not an issue that is new to Easton or new to the world, but younger Easton residents and just younger residents in general prefer online shopping mediums. And we can see in this graph, the first set of graph, we can see that the under 35 demographic prefers online shopping a lot more than the over 55 demographic. And it paints a picture as to why older people are wanting for more brick and mortar retail. So then the second graph we have is by income group. So we can see that people and those that are making 150,000 or more are more interested in in a demand for retail and shopping options, while those making less under 75,000 are less interested. And we look at this and we can kind of consider in terms of the income and age. Another factor to consider is that previously aforementioned data shows that this survey oversampled older populations. So there's a reason why there could be this divide in sampling. But again, it's one of those things like oversampling is a shame, but at the end of the day, you can see from the data that older people just prefer brick and mortar shopping more than younger people. So looking at some of the quotations, look at what people are really saying, because that's what really matters. We're looking at all this quantitative data. Let's look at what people actually say. So there was some demand for vintage clothing stores, antiques, architectural salvage. Another person added that they were interested in a clothing store with similar merchandise and price points to Assembly 88 in Allentown, which is kind of nice to have some kind of comparison to go off of when we're thinking about this. Another interest is in bookstores. And on the other hand, there was definitely some interest and some yearning for some more anchor stores like The Gap or Banana Republic. We also had an interest from a resident of quality clothing such as private boutiques, high-end fashion labels, and high-end vintage. And then there was one person that just really wanted a thrift store. And not just, there were a lot of people that wanted thrift stores, but this person had 2 exclamation points. So thrift stores are a must. So let's break down. We talked about the demand for retail, and but let's really look at what people want when they say retail, because retail is such a broad, and generalized term that we want to see what do people want. So we have a whole myriad here of different interests, but I kind of wanted to pinpoint the top 3 or 4 because you could see that they were much higher in percentages. So for number 1 of interest, we had specialty and unique gifts, which is kind of like artisan-made, handmade goods, just kind of unique gifts. We also had an interest for apparel and accessories. Again, it makes sense because people were interested in things like The Gap and Banana Republic. People want apparel and accessories. And again, you can kind of play back the thought of, well, apparel and accessories probably from a demographic that makes more money. And one thing I totally forgot to add, but I think is really important when we think about the financial aspect of things, when people have more money, they have more disposable income. They have more play money, cold cash. And that's why people with more money want these brick and mortar retail stores, because people that are going 75,000 or less are going paycheck to paycheck, and they're just focused on the bare bones and necessities to feed themselves and their family. They're not worried as much about novelties and specialty items or clothing stores.
Is that the reason why the pharmaceutical or the pharmacy is so low?
That could be. And also, one thing I did want to add to this slide is that you can see below the top 3, then we get to grocery and food market, which is interesting. You'd think that people, which also then speaks to the general theme of, is this population just more wealthy, more well-off? And once you can get past the grocery and food, then you start looking at specialties and accessories and apparel kind of thing. That's also an interesting thing to think about.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for this slide, it's Easton residents, not necessarily downtown residents,
Well,
correct?
yes, it's a 20-minute radius, so it could hypothetically be anyone within that 20-minute radius.
And we'll have some breakdowns of downtown residents
Okay.
coming right up.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so now the real question is, and this comes to no surprise to anyone here, but people want retail. We talked about the demand for entertainment. We talked about the demand for retail. Now the question is, how do people get here? And that's always a big question that every city council has to toy with. So we're going to talk about the demand for public spaces and infrastructure, which is really important. And when we talk about public spaces and infrastructure, we're talking about things such as walkability, land to bus, public transportation, and parking. That's kind of like a summation of a whole bunch of different aspects. Again, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with some of the complaints of parking in Easton. We'll get to that.
Not us.
Never, no. It's perfect, you know.
But I'll tell you one thing. A downtown restaurant owner said she was here when things were bad and there's plenty of parking, but she couldn't pay her bills. Now there's no parking, but she pays her bills.
That's good to know. And I actually have a exclusive anecdote to add at the end. But so let's look at first again going back to age group. So we see here that the 55 and older demographic actually prefers and wants more of a demand for public spaces as opposed to the under 35 demographic, which is interesting, and it could speak in my interpretation of things. It could speak to the fact that younger people are figuring out ways to have walkability and maybe being more climate friendly. That could be a possibility to why younger demographics are figuring out ways to kind of commingle. But then inversely, and actually kind of contradictory to what we saw in the previous slides, we see that the people that make the most money are the least interested in demand for public spaces and infrastructure. And it's actually the people that make the least, the 75,000 and under demographic, that wants the public spaces and infrastructure more. And again, this income group is really important, and this is the quantitative side of things. But let's turn our attention to some of the quotes, and this quotation that really starts ringing alarm bells when we're talking about income group is the quotation that says that money is so tight, so I look for free parking. I only go to Easton when I have an exact purpose, as I'm paying to be there, which is an interesting statement. Some other interesting quotations come from stuff like parking is a nightmare. Lack of handicap parking is also a concern. Someone even went as far to say that parking not only is bad, it's an abomination, which is interesting. I mean, it's great, but wow. And people are also concerned with traffic, and there is a nightmare with navigating city streets. So
right now, with all the construction going on.
Well, that doesn't help, but hopefully that'll be one of those quick turnaround things. So really looking at, and then I think aside from all this, we really want to highlight that demand for public spaces and infrastructure, especially among downtown residents and business owners, actually doubles. So people that actually are living in downtown have a yearn and a want for public spaces and infrastructure more than people that just live in that broader 20-minute radius in the city. So it's definitely a lot to think about. I think that this is something that I think that in a lot of ways, this is a parking issue is a symptom, but in a lot of ways we must consider the disease as possibly a lack of parking, a lack of enforcement. And one other thing I will add is actually kind of an addition to the survey findings was I was downtown last weekend walking around enjoying myself, and I won't name drop, but there was a business owner that I talked to. She's been there for a long time. I don't know the specific amount of time she's been in the city as a business owner, but she said that it's the point now where the parking meters are not enforced. So she'll be open on a Saturday when it's peak time for business, and because there is a lack of enforcement for the parking meters, there's no turnover, and a lack of turnover means a lack of ability to just even park. So that's just something that I heard aside from just this survey on a whole. So again, we looked at the demand for entertainment, retail, and public spaces. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Alexa, and she's going to talk about what services do Easton residents actually want. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bodie, you're kind of a hard act to follow, I won't lie.
You're doing fine, Alexa.
Thank you, sir. So talking about what services do Easton residents want, we came up with a general sort of 3 or 4 big answers to that question. So as just another graphical breakdown here, we've got healthcare and wellness, housekeeping and groceries, personal care, and then we've got other, education, financial and professional. My colleague Emily is going to talk about housekeeping and groceries specifically in a minute. but I'll be talking about healthcare and wellness and also personal care. So healthcare, wellness, and personal care are really very closely tied together. And when we were reviewing these survey results, especially on the qualitative side where people can, type their answers into their phone or their laptop, they really use those two options sort of interchangeably. And so instead of grouping them into one larger category, we thought it was more effective to sort of separate them by, the nature of their answers. So the demand for healthcare and wellness services is a very unique answer to sort of like an amalgamation of concerns that we feel that Easton citizens have from the drug and convenience store perspective, but also the fitness and health perspective. And this also sort of goes along with the age and income lines as well. So, there are more younger Easton residents who also have lower incomes are seeking more of an answer for the drug and convenience stores aspects. And a quote that I have here says, I would love to see another CVS or another drug convenience store. And she goes on to say, there's not a lot of options. And I think that is one problem that I think younger Easton residents have. And if their health needs are not being met, I think that's a greater problem. So, I think going forward, if we were to give, some feedback on that, I would say sort of like a CVS equivalent, a Rite Aid or a Duane Reade, anything that can really provide medicine would be critical, because I think in a lot of responses, people would say that, they have been trouble getting their medicine on time, or when they need or they're sick or something, like they have trouble accessing those medications. And on the other side of that, we have sort of the older and also individuals who have more income on their hands. Their sort of perspective to the health and wellness services is also the gym aspect. The people who want, a Pilates or a yoga studio or a bar studio. And after my personal, surveillance of Easton currently, I've been to the new house. I don't know if any of you have been there. I think it's lovely. I personally haven't taken a class there, but I hope to. And I think, having some sort of other businesses like that, where it's even like an example, like at a YMCA where there's multiple facilities, a basketball court, a pool, something that could hold also a lot of people. There is, I think, a desire for a community spot, or even like a third place component that, many of the older residents who have larger incomes were really desiring. And I'm gonna turn it over to Emily here.
Alexa, where are you from? Oh, that's right.
Eminem.
Maybe still. Hey, I'm old. Just ask Mr. Pinamone.
Thank you, Alexa. My name is Emily Gillespie. I'm from Bergen County, New Jersey. So you've already seen that grocery stores appear among some of the most requested services, but they also stand out in response to another question. When we asked respondents to name one specific store that they would like to see added downtown, they are most likely to say a grocery store. And the difference is staggering. 43% say that they would like to see a grocery store, whereas other additions, such as a restaurant or recreational additions, receive less than 20%. Now, let's see if there are variations between age and income. So across all ages, grocery stores are highly demanded. However, they are slightly more preferred by higher income groups, which could reflect specific calls for specific grocery stores. Higher income individuals prefer stores like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, whereas middle income individuals call for stores such as Wegmans, Trader Joe's, and lower income individuals prefer Aldi's and Trader Joe's. This reflects Easton's call for organic foods at an affordable price. And this data also puts us in a good position to make pitches to specific stores, since we can identify which age and income brackets are most interested, as well as the levels of demand. And when you dig into which stores are actually specifically called for, you can see that Trader Joe's also gets the overwhelming majority with 53%, and it's just majority, and yeah.
Thank you, Emily.
And I'm a stand-in for Ronnie Ward, who is unable to be here today. We had a case of the norovirus, so we decided to keep that away from City Council here.
Thank you.
welcome on that. So looking forward, so they also did some investigation of kind of background demographic trends and things to give a sense of what do we need to be paying attention to 10 years from now. And the key demographic trends is the growth of folks under 30, folks in an older age bracket, 55 and up, and especially, we can see right across the street, the growth of people living right here downtown. And so the team put together some nice kind of persona profiles of would-be residents and what kind of preferences they seem to have from the data. So what do those key constituencies want? Well, young Easton residents, we already saw. They have a real focus on dining, but tend to shop online. So their real focus is on entertainment and those issues around health and wellness. Everything from group fitness studios and Pilates to movie theaters and fun stuff. Our older residents, on the other hand, already come from dining. They evidently absolutely love it. It comes up again and again in the qualitative feedback. It's a real, I think, success story of Easton so far, but there's a real demand for additional retail, local, and specialty items, which we're already doing great work on in Easton. And finally, in response to this question, we did a deep dive into downtown residents. What do people who live here, what kind of challenges do they have, and what is their focus? Bodie already talked in detail about the issue of infrastructure and public spaces. Emily mentioned that there's a real consistent demand for groceries among downtown residents, the opportunity to walk to a place to get grocery and food items, and also a concern about health services that seems particularly large in those areas. And I just want to say that because the team has done such a nice job kind of cleaning and preparing this data, if you all have any requests for, hey, what does X constituency really prefer, they're in a position to do it. So summing up, we kind of have our broad-based set of questions about what respondents want. We have a real success story in terms of current support for dining. And we've also got a real emphasis on new needs of downtown residents. John already mentioned the fact that we're going to be working together to do a survey of students at Lafayette, and we'd also like to talk to alumni to get a sense of that specific younger age group. And we have lots of ideas about ways to continue doing this survey and building on it in the future. So I want to end where I started, which is a huge thanks to the people who helped organize and inspire this. A huge thanks to all of you for giving the opportunity to students. And of course, Lafayette has some pretty amazing students who had a pretty amazing time getting this together. So thank you so much for your help. And I should say they would be more than happy to take your questions, and if I can help in any way, please let me know.
One of the things that we encounter all the time is that big box. The Lidl's, the Trader Joe's. Well, Trader Joe's isn't a big box. They're about 10,000 square feet, and we've tried to talk to them directly, and that didn't work. We've also tried to talk to ShopRite, who now has an urban type store of about 10,000 square feet. But one of the things we get a lot of pushback from is the chains like that. People don't want that in their downtown. They want the mom and pop. And the problem with the mom and pop, you take a grocery store, and since I was in it for 27 years, a mom and pop grocery store, if you make 1% at the end of the year, you're considered profitable. I mean, you're working on an 18% margin, whereas like the London shop might be working on a 300% margin on their, on their suits and shirts and ties. I mean, the ties are going to cost you $85. They probably paid $20 for it. And so the quality is there. There's no doubt about that. It's all locally made, U.S. made. It's not made in Vietnam or China. But that's the concern we have. I mean, we had right next door here at the Confluence, it's under construction right now. They worked for over 6 months to try to find a grocery store. They offered Trader Joe's a really great deal to get there because we really wanted a Trader Joe's. Couldn't do it because their corporate office looks at the profitability and forget it. And we're seeing the same thing now with our pharmacies, which aren't pharmacies anymore. They're really convenience stores.
Closed one on South Side.
Yeah, they closed the one on South Side, CVS. And the one out on 15th Street is jam-packed now. They're busier than ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I had to go out there. I won't go there anymore. I didn't like it.
I go in the afternoon, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, afternoon? Oh, yeah.
Oh, one thing you brought up that I was remiss not to mention is that downtown residents also share that real concern about driving out small businesses. You saw a lot of qualitative things, people naming specific shops that they love now or shops that have left that they really worry about. And so I empathize with this trade-off where people want the services and the goods, but they don't want to see the disappearance of the store owners they love.
The mom and pops don't have the marketing budget to spend,
exactly right.
you know, $50,000 a year marketing themselves that they're here.
That's exactly right.
Do you have the questions answered by zip code? Because I would be curious to see what 18042, how they answered specifically. Because there's two parts. We are a town that attracts outsiders, and we're good at that. But I'd like to also know what 18042, and I know you provided some of that data on one of the slides, but I'd like to see it on all of them if possible.
Sure. So, so we didn't ask people for zip code. However, there was a question that gave people the chance when it said, how often do you visit?
Okay.
Whether they live downtown.
You know,
So we can differentiate between the people who said they live downtown
Yeah.
and the people who live far away. But maybe for subsequent surveys, we could get a little more precise geolocation.
I'll talk to you afterwards.
Sure.
There's something I'm looking for specifically.
Absolutely. And,
Okay.
and these whiz kids can kind of put that together as fast as you
And
need.
the only question that wasn't asked is, where's Peter from?
Oh, yeah, Peter. Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Chatham, New Jersey.
Chatham.
Okay.
Over 3 to
You got-
1 New Jerseyites. We
You
gotta
gotta-
get next time we come down.
You got to be fair. You got to ask everyone the same.
Absolutely.
I know. I wanted to ask Peter afterwards because I didn't ask him, but most of them were from New Jersey, and I guess they had a green card to get across the Delaware River.
And one from
No,
Berkeley.
we really, you know,
Welcome to Lafayette.
one of the things that I get a lot of criticism for is supporting Lafayette College, and I'm very honestly, I think you guys did a great job, and you showed your poise and professionalism at the podium. You spoke very, very, very highly about what you did, and your passion came through. I just know that with the Landis Center, the amount of community support that we get from Lafayette, you really need to tell people because they don't know. They don't know that like 40,000 hours were donated to Paxos Elementary and mostly Cheston and some up in March. They don't know that, and I didn't go to Lafayette. I have an honorary doctorate degree from Lafayette, but I didn't go to Lafayette. And most of the people think I did because I support the college so much. But I also owned a business on College Hill, and I know that my business was successful mainly because of the staff and the professors and the students at the college.
Mayor, I think it's only appropriate you tell them what you did, though.
Well, I went to Kutztown State University.
And after that?
Oh, and then I didn't go to this.
Don't tell me.
I didn't. When they
Big L, the other L.
when Dr. Weiss presented me with my honorary doctorate, he said he called it the little community college up on South Bethlehem.
But Lafayette doesn't offer masters.
No, I did all my research at Lafayette College, at the library, Skillman. But I just think that this is something John and I and Lewis, we talk about all day long. We try to get businesses we think will be successful. Because the last thing we wanted is to go through the 80s again where businesses open and 6 months later they close. Because nobody can make it in Easton. And we went through that with restaurants. And today our restaurants are flourishing. So I just want to say thank you. But I think this is really important data for us to present to other, when we go out recruiting. I've already walked the downtown of Doylestown. Doylestown is filled with local mom and pop.
Yep.
And if they want to move to a second location, I try to get them here. And I think, back when Mayor Smith was here, he was here in 1972, they had a sales team that actually went into New York and into Doylestown and New Hope and said, why don't you move to Easton? And at that time they had tax incentives to be able to do that. We don't have very many tax incentives today. What we fight for is our grants that we get. We've been very successful with other people's money, and mostly state, not federal.
And if I could just make one additional pitch on behalf of these students. First of all, I just want to say getting to be in the room as they were kind of connecting their personal experiences to looking at the data was just a very cool experience seeing how embedded and how much they care about the future of Easton. But I also want to say, now that they have this data, they are in a very good position as you make pitches and say, hey, what is the demand for X kind of store? That data is really well positions the city to be able to reach out to those businesses and say, look, there is this demand. Here's what citizens are asking for. The second thing that I want to say is, in terms of getting students involved downtown, if you see businesses that have challenges that can be helped with student researchers saying, we want to look at market forces, we want to understand customer demand, etc., we've got crews of students who would love to do that. So just as another option for getting students involved and contributing to downtown Easton, I think that's a really wonderful path forward. So thank you.
You know, one thing I didn't see on there, which was interesting, is something about signage.
Yeah.
I did not see that. I was surprised.
Okay.
But I also was surprised on the wellness piece. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I know groceries.
Well, I think
we
the
were talking about
wellness
groceries
piece is
forever.
they don't advertise. I mean, we have St. Luke's down here with a family physician practice. We have Newhouse. We have what's the yoga studio?
Yeah, I was thinking more of a gym, like a fitness gym too.
We have
we do over at the
Marquee.
That's one of the things from living downtown, I'm not surprised to hear the wellness piece. A lot of people, new and older residents, wish that there was a fitness center that had equipment and not just classes. I've gone to the Void at Newhouse that you mentioned. The class is packed all the time for hot Pilates, yoga, and things like that. I know Valium just expanded at the Silk Mill, so I mean, there's definitely, but a lot of downtown residents go all the way out there for classes or go to Trinity and the Y and things like that. But I think, you know, the real demand, I think, is having something that you can walk to.
Totally.
And if you look at other downtown areas that are growing with the apartments, things like that, like we are, you see Pilates, you do see the gym, and and those become social spaces for people as well. You know, we're seeing nationally that, you know, drinking and alcohol consumption is low. We're seeing that at our own festivals locally as well. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me to see the need and want for wellness, and I think that goes from 20s to people in their 50s, and if downtown people are pretty fit, they're using the trails, they're on their bike, they're walking around.
The Blue Zones program. Hopefully, we launch the Easton next week, week after next, and that is trying to get people to be 100 years old.
Totally.
To live longer lives and healthier lives.
Totally.
But the Marquee, which is being done by one of your trustees, J.B. Riley, they put all the amenities in their facility. Same with the Confluence. I mean, they have a fitness facility, they have a lounge, they have a swimming pool, they have doggy baths. They have everything that you would want, that a young person wants, right there.
Yeah.
So
Don't have to leave.
yeah. So the concern is they don't leave.
They don't leave. And I think Alexa made a really nice point that there's both the ease of access issue, but there's also the community issue, that exercise and wellness areas become opportunities for communities to come together. And I think Alexa did a nice job of finding that also in the qualitative data, that this isn't just, hey, I want a place to go. This is, hey, I want to go be with community.
Socialize.
Yeah.
Dr. Ruggles. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the work that you did. I have supervised tech clinics. I have done multiple student design teams up at Lafayette. So I know the quality of work, and you guys had really high quality work. So let me congratulate you on that. One thing I was interested in your data, I'm just throwing this out, you don't have to comment on it, but the health aspect, it was a little surprising to me that it was higher for the younger, under 35, the 41%, versus over 55. And I mean, just intuitively, I would have thought I would have been reversed, you know. It seems as though people, as they're getting older, have much more interest in their health care. And so that I just wanted to point that out. I don't need to give a comment on it, but I mean, that just kind of stuck out to me. That was,
although
but I wouldn't expect,
Totally. I just want to give credit to Alexa, since I think she's the one who kind of uncovered this digging in, is that part of that is because there's a little bit of ambiguity in what we mean by health and wellness, that it's not just the doctor's office, it's also, it's in some ways access to pharmaceuticals, but it's also access to the downtown gym.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that you
and
might
that was
expect
one of
to
the
be
things,
looking- yeah.
I recognize it was a broad category.
And
Right,
in terms of thinking about future surveys, we might have a little more granularity or a follow-up question to get at that distinction.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah,
bet
yeah.
that would reveal the difference you're talking about.
You know, actually today we reviewed, you're right, the presentation's timely, especially for the students, because obviously, you know, this is a good exercise in understanding how policy is implemented, right?
Totally.
Because you need to get the viewpoints of the community. But today we discussed, and council will be privy to this, the waterfront study, which has a lot of these elements that you guys captured about infrastructure improvements, et cetera.
Totally.
So that's right on track, like right on track. And just so the students
Absolutely.
know, this exercise that you did in the classroom is typical of what we have to do as administrators prior to obtaining grants. We have to engage with a third party. So then the third party who provides us millions of dollars, i.e. like the state, et cetera,
Right.
Can validate what we're saying.
know what they're
So like
getting
we
involved in.
kind of know this.
Absolutely.
But we need you guys who don't know this to tell us
To get it out.
what we kind of know too.
Totally.
And then some.
Totally.
So it was perfect.
John had a similar comment when we talked through this last week, which is things like dining. We're look outside. We know that this is what's going on, but A, providing some validation and legitimacy to those intuitions, and then B, discovering some new surprises as well, and maybe some inspiration for future thought.
They always ask me, how many more restaurants you want? I said, you keep getting more and more restaurants. We have the United Nations of restaurants. We have every type of ethnic food. And, you know, there's going to be a new one next week that somebody was going to say. And I know we have at least 3 more coming. One's a Brazilian steakhouse, and the 2 at the hotel are owned by the Gusto Group, which is Oak and Townley and River Grill and Albanese. So we're going to have at least 3 more in the next 2 years.
Totally. And one thing you never saw in the qualitative thing was we have too much dining.
Right.
We really got to stop, right? You see a lot of people celebrating it and a lot of people asking for some additional things, but certainly there's no sense of like, oh, we're saturated.
The ones we have are crowded.
Yeah, sure are.
It was good. Good job.
Cool. Well, thank you again, and mostly thank you to the students.
Thank you to the students as well.
Great information.
Okay, we're going to get to our first quarter review of the budget. Nicole, you want to stick around? And everybody leave.
Please don't go, please.
Okay, Mark, you're up.
This is the exciting part.
She said bye to you.
Oh, bye, Nicole. How old is your daughter? 4. Oh, yeah. I just need a memo.
Thank you, sir.
You're leaving, David?
I hated this stuff when I was on
Good, touche.
New discovery.
Well, I think we can get started. As I'm sure you all are aware, first quarter is a bit early in the year to really make any sort of really predictions, especially given what's going on at the federal level. We're not quite sure how that's going to impact us. So we'll see, we'll stay tuned there. Starting with our general fund revenues, I wanted to just hit on some highlights. Real estate taxes are up 58% year over year. Now that is just a timing thing because we know that our real estate tax base is not increasing by that much. We have a couple of large mortgage consolidators that pay. Sometimes they'll pay a little earlier than later, and this year they paid earlier than they did last year. So that's really the reason for the year over year change. We're at 75% of budget, which is about where we expect to be at this time.
Mark?
Yes.
Do you keep track of, instead of dollars, number of people paying?
No, but that's something
I
we can
think that would be an
easily
interesting,
do.
to compare it to the 58%. So if the number, if that percentage of people paying is also 58%, then we can be pretty confident that it's gonna continue like that.
Maybe
But
I could've-
if it's a significantly different percentage, that might be something interesting to see.
Right. I could ask maybe the students to take a look at that and do some analysis there. Okay. Next, if we look at the mercantile taxes, so you've got your admissions tax, BPTs, mechanical and amusement, and business licenses. If you look at those combined, we are up year over year. There are some fluctuations, but most of them, I think, admissions, mechanical and amusement, and BPTs are all up pretty well. Business licenses are down slightly, but I think that that's going to catch up. And I do know that over the years, timing, exactly. I believe that is timing, and we have had kind of spurts, if you will, of going after folks who aren't in compliance, and then bringing them in. So last year we may have brought some more in than we did this year, but I'm sure that we'll be on target there. Real estate transfer taxes are down compared to last year, but again, I think we should be on track for the budget. It's again a timing issue. We'll see what the markets bring as far as any reductions to interest rates and the like, and some opening up of
the interest rates
availability.
haven't come down.
Right.
Prices have gone up, and the interest rates are still the same.
Right. So folks are getting squeezed from both sides.
Unfortunately,
if they're looking for a house. EIT is up nicely. Actually, Nicole, I was just at a Northampton County meeting of EIT collectors, if you will. Very exciting meeting. And we did talk about the overall, again, for the county, EIT numbers continue to go up. I know we've talked about this numerous times, but
it's much better than a negative 6.1.
sure, that is very true.
This is another category where I would be really interested to see
numbers.
How many, and I don't know if the data are out there, but how many of these EIT collections are new people for the year?
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah, I can reach out to Keystone and ask them about that. Non-resident, the pension-only piece, or the Act 205 piece, which we discussed during the budgeting process, that is actually, we are over budget there, and we expected that to be kind of just a one-time shot as we had fourth quarter numbers coming in from last year. So that should dry up. We believe there's not going to be much there, but that did come in over budget by about $100,000.
But that all goes to
pensions.
That all goes to pensions.
Correct. TV cable franchises, again, is a timing issue when we get those payments from the cable providers. Casino revenue we haven't seen yet. We normally get a notification from the state in late April or early May letting us know what that'll be. Hoping that number comes in solidly. Police parking fines are more or less level. I mean, they are down slightly, but not very significant amount. Now, you may ask, if you recall, during the budget hearings, we did increase the rates on parking fines. And I don't know, Dr. Ruggles, if that's where you were going. But the reason that we didn't see the increase that we would have expected is because of the way the budget process works and the approvals. We didn't necessarily want to order new tickets until we had the approval. And at that point, when we ordered them, used up, and got the new ones in, there was a timing issue, so we didn't really get the new tickets and the new fine structure in place until probably into March.
More for Lewis here.
Oh, okay.
Didn't we hire additional parking enforcement officers or officer? I don't know.
We converted one to full-time.
Okay.
So that full-time provided more hours.
Okay.
So, and then the balance were all part-time. So that full-time is an increase. We have to look into, like, operationally, like, what each individual PEO is producing, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I'm not looking to be one who says, we're going to really increase our revenue by writing more tickets.
I know.
But if we hire more people, it seems as though we should see an increase in revenue because there's more people out there, right?
But just so you know, we're not supposed to talk about revenue from police fines.
No. No.
We can't, today it came
That's
up
why I
at the
said,
staff meeting.
not that I want to talk about that.
Yeah, right. I don't want to talk about that because that's exactly what happened in Flint, Michigan.
Isn't it Fargo? No.
Where?
It's,
Wasn't Flint, that was a
No,
no,
that was,
it-
that was out in Missouri.
It was out, it was a big, I'll get the case for you. It was a big case.
Mayor, not to talk about generating revenue from tickets, but we're still missing the mark on quality of life tickets. We're quality of life issues. It's just as bad now as when I brought it up over a year ago. We're just not hitting it. I don't know if we don't have the staff for it.
We have the
We're
staff.
missing it. We're not hitting
Quality of life tickets are given out by the code department.
Yeah, we're not prepared to talk about it right now, but I can certainly dig
Well, and
into
it's
it
not just
after.
code, but even parking. I mean, Southside Berwick Street, cars are having the intersection on Berwick and Davis every weekend. Every weekend. You can't see to come out.
I agree with that too. I get a lot of feedback from Westward and Southside residents, and unsafe turning because people are parked to the curb where they're not supposed to be.
Blocking driveways.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no parking signs that I worked with Dave last summer to put up because they were rusted and put up, and they're parking right under the signs,
Well,
and they stay there all weekend.
Let me, because we're talking about two different things, and to stay on topic here, for the budget, let me look into codes and the PEO's quality of life and ticketing. Maybe I can generate a report so we get an idea of where they're at in the
Well,
community.
the fact of the matter is, we don't give a lot of parking tickets in downtown Easton. We don't. And when she talked about the person who said there's no turnover, she's absolutely right. The whole reason for meters is to have a turnover. Well, if you're not enforcing the meters, you don't have turnover. You have people parking here for 7-8 hours, and it says it's a 3-hour meter.
Mayor, if I may, can I grab the data and then I'll share it with council? I'll see if I can do that by the next committee meeting.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right.
And Louis, just so you know, not just meter parking, parking on public grass on our parks.
All of the above. I'm gonna look at quality of life specifically, but I don't know exactly what I'm gonna look. I haven't looked at this data in a while, but I have to see what's available, and then I'll share what's available, what I think makes sense.
Staying on the parking topic, parking meters, revenues are down slightly. I think everyone can all agree that the construction, the road closures and whatnot has really, I think, forced folks out of some of the parking areas where we would have expected more revenue, more turnover. So I believe that that's the primary driver for the parking meter revenue be down. Once these bigger projects are over in the probably coming weeks, we should hope
Can I
to
just
see
make
a
a
bounce
real
back
quick
in that.
comment here?
Sure.
And again, Louis, I'm making this to you, but
Okay.
We went online to get a permit for our fence. Feel like I'm a little educated, and it was difficult. And I mean, that process should be so simple. I mean, we shouldn't challenge people to get a permit. And I don't know if it's because we bought a certain software. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But just to get a permit for a fence took about, I don't know, 3 hours. Some of it was just finding where to get the permit at.
Louis, just to piggyback on that, I don't get my own permits. I have the contractors do it for that reason. But Dr. Ruggles brought that up, man, about a year ago, and I said the same thing, and we still haven't seen much to it. Can we get Dwayne in to see what the issue is and how can we resolve it?
So we can do that.
Okay, moving along, if we look at some of the other fees associated with development, we'll say the planning commission fees, review fees, and building permits, those are all down year over year. Again, as I think we can expect, given that a lot of the bigger projects are underway already. Fortunately, we did budget a decrease, and I think we're on target there. Residential permits, rental permits are up significantly, and digging into that a bit, I found that one of our new codes clerks was responsible for that. She's really been chasing after those that were out of compliance and making sure that they get paid up. So I think between the finance team and the codes team, we are trying to work much more closely together and make sure that folks are checking all the boxes, making sure that they've done everything that they need to do to proceed with any of the projects that they're looking at. Solid waste, our trash collections are up, and that is primarily due to the rate increases. Dr. Ruggles, if you'd like, we can take a look at what those numbers are as far as payers, compare year over year and see what that looks like. Sewer services, I would like to spend just maybe a couple of minutes on this. After the budget was approved last year, we met with our auditors, and they made some recommendations on ways to streamline some of the processes that we were using. One of them being the sewer services, and for those that were here for the implementation of that or have seen it now since the last couple of years, what we in essence do is we would get sewer revenue. So when we bill our customers for sewer revenues, money came into the general fund, and then we'd move it out by a transfer out to the newly created sewer service fund, which was the 808 fund. Similarly, on the expense side, we did allocations based on, say my department does a lot of work, obviously with billing for sewer, so a lot of our expenses would be moved over there. They recommended that we, instead of kind of passing it through the general fund and then moving it out, so in and out, kind of gets a little muddy, that we just push everything directly into the sewer services fund. So we've started that transition. So you'll see that there are basically some holes there where there should be dollars. You'll now see those directly in the 808 fund. For the next meeting, I would like to propose a budget amendment so that we can shift those. There's no impact to either the 808 fund or the general fund. Again, it's just money coming in and money going out. It's a net zero impact to both of those. So I'll just bring that up. That hits on some of the expenses as well, but mostly on the revenue side so far. Okay, so if there are no questions there yet, we'll move. Yeah.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to get a definition from you. In your parking, your last bullet, parking in the garages.
Yes.
When you say is slightly below budget, how do you calculate that? Do you take the total annual budget, divide by 12, and then multiply that value by 3?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Not even. I just looked at the quarter. So I just looked at same sort of impact. So looking at the quarter, so what we've collected to date versus what 1 quarter of the budget would be. So I didn't annualize it necessarily. I just looked at.
I mean, I like the year over year, especially for revenues that are seasonal, I'll call them. Okay, yeah. When we have greater parking in the summer, looking at that method of calculating whether we're on budget or we're not on budget. We're not on budget because most of our revenue is going to come in over the summertime. Exactly. So year over year, I think is a better way of looking at that. Yeah.
Last week, Crayola's line was out to Plaza, up Northampton Street, and down 4th Street, and then back down Pine Street.
No, well, just for everyone on council, there's 2 columns that we look at, and you brought up one aspect is that the revenue is not linear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, you shouldn't look at the column that says percentage used, because if you're looking for or you're looking for a 25%, am I at 25% of revenue? Because you should be. In some cases, you're going to see 40, 50, 100% of revenue.
Okay. Yeah.
You're going to say, hey, what's going on here? Well, then you got to compare that year to year because it's not linear, like you said.
Yeah.
So just as a quick reminder, but that's a good point. I think we looked at there was a couple other line items. And this, hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
That is Act 205.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but it still does the pension.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I had talked about it today in our budget meeting about the $579,000 is going to be a hard number to fill next year. But I forgot it all goes to the pension anyway, so it really doesn't affect the general fund.
I think it'll be captured in the other line. We can talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about parking in the garages. Okay, so next, this is a bullet that I should have added, but We were informed earlier today by Mr. Hopkins that the rebate that we're getting from the Easton Area Joint Sewer Authority is going to be significantly greater than what we had budgeted. I don't quite have the numbers yet, but once obviously I do, I'll be able to share those. But that should provide us with a little cushion should we need it. That's it for the highlights on the general fund. The other funds are rather straightforward at this point of the year. There's really not much. If we look at, I'm sorry, I skipped over expenses. So on the general fund expense side, bulk of that is headcount related, right? So our personnel costs, salaries, wages, and benefits, those are more or less flat year over year and on target with the budget. Unfortunately, our overtime, especially in the in the fire department, continues to be up. We do know that we are short firefighters, that we've had some retirements. We do have 4 firefighters in the academy now, and we expect them to be out sometime this summer. I believe that they're out in June. Another month.
June 6th is the graduation.
Another month on the job training, and then I think they're officially kicked out of the nest and can go fly on their own and join the ranks officially. So we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully that'll bring those numbers back in line.
They'll get out in June, but when will they actually be able to take
The end of the year.
That's what. About
September.
they're about a month. They're about a month or so.
They're different than police.
About a month.
They're different than the police when the police do it.
Yeah, police are longer. Yeah, fire. They spend about a month and then are effectively added to the ranks. I did start discussing the other funds. Again, there's really nothing of real note. The only real exception being the 808, and we kind of talked about that sewer fund and those allocations. So I'll let everybody take a look at the financials. If anybody would like soft copies, please let me know. I can email them to you. And then if you have any questions, we can discuss them either at the next meeting or in between meetings. If you want to shoot me an email, text, give me a call, whatever, please let me know.
I think the last thing is on this is that the most important thing is that we're discussing this, and I don't think there are any real main issues that we see in the numbers. So that's the whole point of bringing this, reviewing these numbers with you guys. Just we don't spot anything major right now.
Louis, where are we at with the stamp program process?
So the stamp program, we received the grant from DCED, and it was higher than expected. Well, it was at the number that we expected. It was $75,000. And the mayor and I and Mark signed off on the administrative end today, so we should get the ball rolling, which is good. So we have the money within it came in like $2,000 under budget. It was the total contract is like just under $100,000. Like it's like 98, I think. And so it falls within our budget, so it's good. So we're moving forward.
So we should start seeing the interviews.
Yeah, well, I think it's a whole process. So Mark and I have to keep going through it. I just got the contract from PFM, et cetera.
Dr. Ruggles, how is our healthcare tracking so far this year?
I think we're on budget. I didn't see any issues.
Okay.
We significantly increased healthcare up to, I think it was like 5.8 million. It's a
$1 million.
Yeah,
at least increase.
We took a pretty big hit, as I recall, last year, right?
Yeah. So it was a big bump. We have a new broker. I think they did a great job advising us, especially because they can collect a lot of data on healthcare data specifically. We had some big claims last year. We're confident that we're in an okay position. Like right now, like I said, I don't see anything right now that is of concern. But again, we'll do this again in the summertime, if not earlier, but more like a deep dive in the summer. We'll have to do it again in the fall.
Okay.
So I think we're okay.
Anyone else from City Council have anything to add to or discuss?
I just wanted to mention, unrelated, I'm having an email issue right now I have to iron out with Mazen, but I meant to send everyone an invite to the EBA. They have a ribbon cutting on Friday evening at 5 for House Planted and Crepes at Casa. So it's 5 this Friday at the Easton Public Market. If anyone's interested in coming, love to have you there.
Anyone else? Okay, meeting's adjourned. See you tomorrow night.
See, they got the equipment on. Built for it now.
Yeah, they're supposed to, the contract's been awarded.
Yeah, they just started putting the truck down.
Oh, who's your teacher? Falcone?
Mr. Falcone.
Setting of students.
We need, you need agenda?
Need a agenda and signature.
You know, Falcone,
Well, he didn't know you got here late. But let me write that on and I wouldn't do that to you.
May I please give you this, Councilman? Thank you. May I please give you this? This one has no.
I apologize, I haven't gotten that meeting set up yet.
On the QR code?
I am at the end of my semester.
Okay, I'm actually gonna